Says the Yimar Ashkelon Chatas Chayla, but we find a market to this din by a regular. So the Gemara is now looking for a market to passel even by a shah chatas, by regular chatas. That Mashav Shlei Lishma is there's a mitzvah that he has to be lishma, and also that it's ma'akev. Ashkelon Chatas Chayla. We only found by Chatas Chayla, a regular chatas. The Chsiba V'Shach Leis Lechatas. From the ois, so we know it has to be Yishach L'Shem Chatas. Chatas David Zicham. How about the chatas that even David the Zora does b'shegeg, that he has to have in mind for the chatas, and also the shmias koil, that if somebody knows Eidish by Shvus Eidish, somebody knows Eidish, and he denies and he says he doesn't know the Eidish for the line in the that he doesn't know testimony to help his friend out. How do we know about that? Chatas has to be l'shem chatas. Will be this a sign of chatas that somebody brings on a shvur sheker v'shegeg, or he swears that he's going to do so and so, and he was shaking and he didn't fulfill his shvur. And betumas mikdash v'gadashav, or the chatas that one brings for entering into the Beis Hamikdash tamei. So, or he ate kachim betuma b'shegeg. The like sibahu over there by those chatas that are mentioned in separate pashas, nothing to do with chatas chaylev. It doesn't say that you have to have lishma. Minolan, how do we know that over there that if it's going to be shalei lishma, it's going to be pasal? If you want a chatz, David is gecham asm chatas chaylev. Chatz David is gecham. We learn out chatas chaylev. She can't cut us kamaisa because a chatz shal David is gecham comes to be mechapa on a chet that b'meizel is kares just like chatas chaylev, hanach kulu, and all the other ones that we mentioned of karbon oil we yoded asim b'matzad. We learn out with a tzad hashava between chatas chaylev, chatas nazir, and chatas metzera. The tzad hashava is that by these three chatois are all possible if he had a mashav shlei lishma. So too, I bring down all these cases of karbon oil we yoded, since these karbonis are also chatois, so too they will be possible with hamachshav shlei lishma. So you want to tell me about Pesach is man a carbon Pesach that was slaughtered in the time on the 14th day, afternoon till the evening, which is the Zman for carbon Pesach. If Nishal Lishmai, if he had a mind for the carbon Pesach, kosher. Shalei Lishma, if he had a mind for a different carbon Pesach. If he shachted it L'Shem Pesach, but not on the right Zman of when a carbon Pesach is brought, Pasal. So the Torah goes back many times to establish the Zman of being Makir Ba'aba Asav Nisim from the afternoon till the evening, to teach us if he shechted in another time, then and having in mind for carbon Pesach, it's going to be Pasal. But what's if he shechted Shalei Lishma, only he had in mind for a different carbon, this carbon Pesach which was Lachas Mani, then it's kosher b'Torah Shlamim. The Gemara is now looking for a market for the words of the Braisa that a Pesach shenishcha b'shai yimeis hashana, but it was shalei lishma that's kosher. But look from where do we learn this out? So the Gemara Mavua, the Shmuel, the father of Shmuel Samakar, says in the pasuk min atzoin karbanim lezevach hashlamim. So this is how we explain the pasuk. Dava haba min atzoin, something that comes from the atzoin from sheep, that's his carbon. Meaning, if it'll be makra Pesach, which is a carbon that comes only from kwas meizim, then it's Yehei Lezevach Shlamim. It's talking about a Pesach Shleim Bizmanei, because a Pesach Bizmanei that was Yeshach Nustam is Taka Carbon Pesach. But if he Shech L'Shem Shlamim, it's, and in its Manei, it's going to be possible, like we said before, from the Psukim. So you see, the Pasuk teaches a Pesach Shleim Bizmanei that was Yeshach Shaloi L'Shem Pesach, it's going to be Kosher B'Torah Shlamim. In fact, maybe we should say only if he had in mind L'Shem Shlamim, only if he had in mind Torah Shlamim, but if he shechted for a different carbon like Oila or Chatas, it's not going to be kosher. How does the Bryce learn out that Shalei Lishma is kosher, which is mashma, the din is if he shechted for any carbon, from this that it says the extra word lezavach, lerab is kol zavach, that if he shechted b'shai yimeis hashan l'shem any carbon, that the carbon is kosher. In fact, you might no. Ema say Since the Torah was Masabit called carbon, called the Shachad, Lahevi Kamaisa, any carbon that he had in mind to Shach the Pesach Shleib Zmanai, the Pesach should be Kamaisa. Meaning, if he Shach L'Shem Eila, it should be L'Shem Eila. How do you know? How does the father of Shmuel know that if any Pesach that was Shach Shleib L'Shma, it automatically is a Shlamim, even though he had in mind for Eila? If the Torah would have written first Shlamim and then Zevach, then I would have said Kiddukamet. You're right. Not only a Shlamim, but any Zevach, any carbon, if he had in mind, that's what it's brought for. But Hashd Chesiv L'Zevach Shlamim, but now that it says L'Zevach before the word Shlamim, it's come to teach us L'Kol Neshachem Le Shlamim L'Havim. That any carbon that was Yeshachem Shalei Bezmanei, so it should be a shlamim. Why are you dashing the pasuk that way? Even a zevach klal. Say zevach is a klal which is mashma that a pasuk is nishlat. It could be slaughtered for any carbon, and that carbon, whatever he had in mind, will be kosher. Shlamim is a prat that teaches a pasuk that nishlat shleidishma is only going to be kosher for shlamim. And klal prat ain't mechlal alamashma prat, because the prat is explaining the klal. That it's only if it's for shlamim that it's only going to be for shlamim, not for any other thing. Because when the pasuk continues and says La Hashem, how do we call him? He came with another klal. So now you have klal prat and klal. You have the keina prat, and it's not dafke shlamim, keina prat, any carbon. Maskil law. So the Gemara is mask in middle of the answer in order to ask the kasha of Yaakov ben Hapakay. The last call is not similar to the earlier cloud. First cloud is Zevach, is only inclusive of kabbanis, behemoths that are slaughtered. But not a bird which is not cut geshacht with the nail. It's not shechted with a knife, so maybe it's not going to be kosher. But the klal basa la Hashem is mama kol the Hashem. Afilu la'ifes, even la'ifes, oil sa'if. Afilu l'menachis, even if you shach the Pesach l'shem mincha, the Pesach will be kosher b'terei shlamim, because even these is l'shem Hashem. So since the first klal and the last klal is not similar, because the first klal is only referring to behemoths which are nishchet, and the second klal is referring even to things that are not yishachtim, like Oilas Ha'if, which is done with the nail of a kohen or mincha. That according to the Tana, we're going according to the Tana of the Beismedrish of Yishmael, Dashin, Klal Prat and Klal, even when the last Klal is not similar to the first Klal. So the Gemara goes back to explain the answer. Now, we're talking about Klal Prat and Klal, so we dash in Klal Prat and Klal. Klal Prat and Klal, we have to done looking at Prat. We only say whatever is similar prat, which is a Pesach that was nishich l'shem kamacha. Ma prat mefreinish, just like a prat is a Pesach nishat l'shem shlamim, shehu nishich shalei l'shmai, and nevertheless it's kosher, even though it was yishachim for shlamim, and it wasn't l'shma for the Pesach, it's still kosher. Afkol, so too by a Pesach that was nishat l'shem any other carbon shehu shalei l'shmai. Like even for Ayla, kosher, it's going to be kosher. So we learn out that a Pesach, L'Shah Yimei Hashana, that was nishchat for any other carbon other than a Pesach, it's still going to be kosher. Not dafke if it was Yishach L'Shem Shlamim. So the Gemara says, no. If you want to learn out from a klal prat to klal, ma prat mefurish, davar haba b'nei davar koil, haba b'nei davar, which is Eilu Shlamim. I'll say, if you learn a klal prat and klal, it has to be keina prat. And just like the prat is only something that's brought b'nei davar, so to anything that was brought, any other carbon that was brought other than shlamim has to be together b'nei davar. So you'll say, Eilu Shlamim in. Only Eilu Shlamim is going to be kosher because the Eilu Shlamim, they come b'nei l'dava. Chatzis v'asham lei is not going to be kosher because Chatzis v'asham is not brought b'nei l'dava. So since you can limit kein aprat, dafker kabbanis that are brought b'neidim with the dava. So how do you know? And we know it's shaykh to all other kabbanis as well. It says Zevach is not a klal. We're not learning as a klal. Only we're learning it as a ribuyu. That it's marba. It's its own separate. Nothing to call a klal. It's its own separate ribui. And it's since it's an extra word, we are marba all kabbanis. If it's working as its own separate ribui, even the chol d'shach leila have a kabbal say maybe any carbon if he's shachtin lishmai shalei bizmanei, so the Pesach should be kameisim. And how do you know it's only dafka going to be considered as a shlamim, like we said before? Maybe it should be considered as any carbon. Every oven that's answered. Since the carbon Pesach is hugdish l'shem a carbon that's eaten, so it does not include. It can only we can only talk about another carbon which is eaten, which is a shlamim, but not a carbon eila which is not eaten. It's only completely burned on the mizbeach. So even if he shachted a Pesach l'shem eila, it's not going to be considered as a oila, only as a shlamim, because it has to be like a Pesach, which is nechel. It's a carbon which is nechel, and the oila is not nechel. In fact, you can chatzos v'asham are also eaten. So you're right. Only oila is completely not eaten, but chatzos v'asham is. So why don't we say if you shech the Pesach l'shem v'asham chatzos, it should be considered as a chashva chatzos? It's a kosher on the cholad. Ain't the kosher on the cholad? It's a kosher she'ain nan a chol adam. The Pesach we could only compare to a Pesach which is eaten by everybody, and only which carbon is eaten by everybody. Shlamim chatzos v'asham is only eaten by kahanim scharim alone, and only kahanim. Therefore, the Pesach is only going to be like a shlamim if he had a mind as a shalei lishma of Pesach. But not like Asham and Chatas, because they're not eaten by everybody. Even if it's Nishchat L'Shem Asham and Chatas. I'm going to give you a different title. It's Teichen Kachim Kalam, it's a Kachim Kalam. Ain't Teichen Kachim Kalam, it's a Kachim Gadashim. A Pesach is Kachim Kalam. So only what's similar to that is Shlamim, which is Kachim Kalam. Oila, Chatas, and Asham, they're Kachim. So therefore, if he did a Shlei L'Shma, we can only do something that's similar to Pesach, which is Kachim Kalam, and the only one that fits that category is Kachim. But Oila, Chatzos v'Asham, they're all Kachim. And therefore, if it's Shleit L'Shma, they're not going to be, it's going to be for Shlamim and not for Oila, Chatzos v'Asham.